Ironically, despite starting my gaming videos this year, 2023 has been one of my slowest for gaming in many years. I only have completed 8 different games this year at the time of writing this, although there's 4 more I've played a significant amount of time with that I still have yet to finish. It was a busy year, but the runtime of 2 games in particular may be the reason for my lower completion rate too. Even though the amount I played is less than usual, I definitely enjoyed playing them all, and there definitely weren't any duds for me. I've always enjoyed watching top 10 and ranking videos, and have always wanted to make some, so I'm going to join the bandwagon and rank these 12 games I've played this year. Ongoing games not exclusive to this year like Super Smash Bros. And Gang Beasts won't be included, but games I've revisited for the first time in a while this year will be. While I'll definitely be considering the objective aspects of the games in comparison to each other, this list will largely be my subjective opinions of these games. Knowing myself, I'll probably rank these games differently in the future as my thoughts evolve. Even as I'm writing this, some games are shifting slightly. But at this point in time at the end of the year, here is my ranking of the games I've played in 2023.
Number 12.
Super Mario Bros. The Lost Level starts off the bottom of this list. Even though it's my least favorite of this year, it's one I did enjoy and was certainly pretty engaged by it as I played through it. It's definitely a challenging game and pretty cruel to the player, but since I was in the mood for that at the time, I was definitely forgiving of that and enjoyed the challenge. The game really doesn't do much to differ itself from the first Super Mario Bros., as it reuses the sprites and music from the first game. It adds some new features like poison mushrooms and wind, but the main purpose of the game was to create a more challenging experience of the original. I feel this game is definitely a relic of its time though, and if it weren't for modern conveniences of save states, I wouldn't have had the patience to play through it and complete it. And I know in the future, I'd rather play the original Mario or any other Mario game over this one again, but I'm glad I tried it and got through it.
Number 11.
Power Rangers Wild Force for the GBA is definitely a game I have a lot of nostalgia for from my childhood. It was fun revisiting it, and I played it twice to do both paths and unlock all the Zords. It's a pretty simple game, where the gameplay loop for each level starts with you playing as the Rangers themselves in a beat-em-up style, then transitions to a fighting game style for the Megazord fight. The game definitely was on the super easy side, and it didn't feel like there's a lot of depth in most of the levels, so it can feel a bit repetitive once you've gotten the hang of it. But it also is a super short experience that you can finish in a single session easily. I do recognize much of my enjoyment of it comes from my nostalgia, as it was a season of Power Rangers I loved as a kid, and I played through the game multiple times back then. And it's certainly not a bad game, but it definitely isn't as great of a game experience as most of the others I played this year.
Number 10.
Compared to the 2 other short retro games I just talked about, Kirby's Dream Land was definitely the best one. It was also the shortest game I played this year, but for what it lacks in size, it makes up with quality gameplay and personality. The game feels so fluid both in controls and the animations, and it's very forgiving to the player in an era where games often weren't. This is the 3rd mainline Kirby game I've ever played, and while it doesn't have all the mechanics and abilities future games in the series do, it was still very fun at its core, and due to its short length, did not overstay its welcome. It's definitely a pretty good game, and the crown jewel of these smaller games I played, and filled my desire I had for a quick and short game. However, I feel I prefer all the larger scale games I played this year over it.
Number 9.
I definitely didn't foresee myself getting back into Fortnite again this year. I played it a little bit back in the first season with my friends, and while I had fun messing around in the game with them, I never played it much and never did well enough to get a win, and we quickly moved on from it. This year, my friends kind of spontaneously decided to start playing it again with the revival of the original map, and I've been joining in from time to time these past couple months. And it's definitely been a wild ride seeing how much it's evolved over the years, and there's definitely been lots of fun and laughs. I'm admittedly still not the best at the game, but at least now I've been able to piggyback on some wins.
Got him!
One of the nights I played, I unknowingly joined the big event for the end of Season 5, and that was a pretty chaotic but also kind of cool and a bit hilarious ride to experience.
Cody, you better be posting
Bro, this
shit
is
on
wild.
YouTube.
I've always understood the appeal of Fortnite from a distance, and it's definitely fun to experience firsthand for once. And if I had the time, it's one I could see myself getting into more. I've definitely liked most of the other games I've played this year over this, but I've definitely had a good time playing this with my friends, and I'm looking forward to playing it more with them in 2024.
Number 8.
A Way Out was a game I'd been interested in trying since it was revealed, and I'm glad to finally gotten around to it this year. It's definitely a unique experience playing a heavily cinematic co-op game, and me and my girlfriend had a fun time playing. Admittedly, the game's appeal definitely relies on its co-op nature, and many of its pieces aren't as strong as other games, like the shooting portions. I did enjoy the story and got attached to the characters, but the story wasn't as captivating as some of the other story-based games I've played this year. The short runtime of the game definitely makes it feel like an experimental game testing out its co-op concept too, which it definitely does succeed with, as it's a very fun story game to play with someone you're close to.
Number 7.
I'm now entering the I wish these were higher up, but unfortunately they aren't territory now with Pokemon Violet. Pokemon is one of my favorite series, and because of that, I still very much enjoyed the gameplay of this game, since it still nails the core mechanics of the series like battling and offering you a variety of Pokemon to collect and bond with. Being the first with an open world made it definitely an intriguing one to play, and it was fun exploring the lively map and discovering all the new Pokemon. The story definitely goes hard for a mainline Pokemon game too, and gets pretty intense in the end. The fact this game was rushed out though definitely hinders it a bit and definitely makes it not as great as it could have been. The performance isn't great and it's definitely buggy. The progression through the game is definitely wonky, as even though you can do the story events in any order, they are set at a certain difficulty level, and the game does not communicate this to you at all. It's a fun game despite these problems, but they definitely keep the game from being higher on the list.
Number 6.
Fire Emblem is another one of my favorite series, so it's kinda sad to not put Fire Emblem Engage higher on the list too, especially since it's the game I've had the most playtime with this year as well. There's definitely a lot I've liked about this game. Like, the gameplay is a lot of fun, and it certainly has been one of the more challenging games for me in the series.
Too much.
I do have little nitpicks though with things here and there with the level design, though I'll dive into that deeper when I make my review after completing the game. I like the inclusion of past characters and flashback maps too, even though it gives the game major spin-off energy despite being a main series game. I love the soundtrack in the game too, and it definitely celebrates the series' musical history a bit. However, while it has some good moments, the writing so far has been a bit of a downgrade, and as a result, the plot and characters aren't as interesting to me, especially coming directly after Three Houses. There is so much extra fluff in the game too that it really extends the playtime, but isn't as interesting as the side activities in Three Houses, so it just makes the game drag and is part of why it's taken me so long and I have not finished it yet. I have been enjoying the game in the grand scheme, but there are better ones I've played this year for sure.
Number 5.
With Marvel's Spider-Man 2 at number 5, we are now in the territory where I largely have only positive things to say about the games. At the end of the year, I'm only like halfway through the game, but it's definitely as good gameplay-wise as the first one and the Miles Morales game. Swinging around the city and fighting crime is fun like always, and it's fun to be able to switch between the two Spider-Man and play around with their differing abilities. And the story definitely has me hooked, and I'm excited to see more of where it's going, and what's going on with the whole Venom symbiote situation. And I could see this game getting bumped up in my eyes once I complete it. But at the current time frame, it kind of feels like more of the same from its predecessors, which, while that's good in a way, I can definitely see it blurring together with the others in my mind over time too. It very much is a very solid and fun game for me, and has beaten out a bunch of good games I've played this year. But compared to a couple other action-adventure games I've played on PlayStation this year, it hasn't impressed me as much as those.
Number 4.
Star Wars Jedi Survivor is definitely the best modern Star Wars game we've gotten so far, which, as a Star Wars fan, this has made me really happy. It very much builds upon everything they did with the predecessor Fallen Order, while also staying true to form. You feel a lot stronger as a Jedi in this game, but they still make the game a challenging experience at the same time. It's really satisfying to play, and to strike down enemies with your lightsaber and Force abilities. The customization is great too, and makes Cal feel like the Jedi you want him to be. The story is definitely smaller in scope compared to its predecessor, and other games I've played this year, but that allows it to be a bit more of a personal journey for Cal. It's not a flawless game, and another similar action game I played coming up in the list did many things better, but I very much enjoyed my experience with this game, which definitely had me hooked and excited for more.
Number 3.
It Takes Two is definitely a wild ride, and I can definitely see why it won Game of the Year back in 2021. Me and my girlfriend started it soon after finishing A Way Out, and even though it took us like half the year to finish it, we definitely enjoyed it greatly. There is never a dull moment during the game, and you're constantly being introduced to new mechanics in each portion, and nothing ever overstays its welcome. The creativity of the game's world definitely gives off the vibes of games from the N64 era, but the focus on the narrative gives it a modern feel to it too. It's definitely a super funny game too, that ends up being really wholesome and a unique co-op experience. As I was crafting this list, I was definitely surprised at how many games I felt this was superior to, and it made me realize that I felt the only downside was that there just wasn't enough of it. It's a pretty perfect co-op game, and I know my girlfriend and I will very much cherish the memory of playing it together.
Number 2.
It may have been one of the earliest games I've played in 2023, but God of War Ragnarok was definitely the second best I've played this year. Like Jedi Survivor, this game successfully builds upon and continues from its predecessor and expands on it. I feel the quality of this game and its story are definitely what elevates this above Jedi Survivor for me, even with my Star Wars bias working in that game's favor. There's a lot you can do with the combat system, and the game is both fair and provides a challenge on its normal difficulty. The world is definitely engaging, and the performances by the main cast of characters is great, and the game does a really good job at making you feel like it's an epic mythical tale. Just wanting to see and experience more of the world and lore is what drove me to get the Platinum Trophy for this game, which is not something I do often. I admittedly didn't realize until I made this list it was second in my mind, but after reflecting on it, I felt it was a great and quality game that I only had minor nitpicks for, and felt those did not tarnish the grand experience I had.
Number 1.
The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom might be a cliche number 1 for this year, but hey, I think it's an amazing game. And as a huge fan of the Zelda series, I've absolutely loved what I've played of it so far. It shares the same map as Breath of the Wild, but the land has evolved a bit since then, and there's still lots to discover in the locations you've previously explored, and in the new areas in the sky and underground. The land of Hyrule feels both familiar and new, and there's a larger variety of new enemies that really makes it feel like you're not repeating the previous game. The crafting mechanic is definitely a huge addition too, and I can definitely tell that's what drove them to make this sequel. I haven't made anything too crazy yet, but it's fun to experiment, and it feels like a very natural addition to the physics engine Breath of the Wild created. I have been making really slow progress on the game so far, and even though I'm around 35 hours deep into the game, I have really only done one dungeon, and have barely scratched the surface of this game. I don't want to rush this game, and have been taking my time to enjoy both it and still play other games too alongside it. I really want to extend the longevity of this giant game, and the time I spend in the world, since it's such an amazing game, and I want to maximize the experience. I really love the Zelda series, and I'm happy this game turned out as amazing as it did, and it's definitely my favorite from this year, jam-packed full with lots of fun, great games. Hope you've all enjoyed the video. Would love to hear your thoughts on the list. I'm excited to continue Zelda and finish up the few other stragglers I have left from 2023 and 2024, and I'm definitely looking forward to all the games, both new and old, I'll be trying out in the new year. There's definitely a lot I hope to delve into this year, and I'm excited to share my thoughts on these games with you all in my videos. I also would love to hear in the comments some of your favorites from 2023 and what you hope to play in 2024. If you're interested in hearing more about my thoughts on these games, or the ones I play in the future, definitely smash that subscribe button and check out my videos. I hope you all have a great new year too, and you'll have a fun-filled time with the games you all play. Thanks for watching.